Well, as a bit of a follow-up to the Volvo petrol flap locking motor, it's still playing up, and of course the only time it really plays up is when you're at the forecourt and you can't open the flap. I eventually got round that problem by attaching a bit of thin nylon fishing line to this actuating rod, and that of course allows you to open it by giving it a yank if you can't open it with the motor. But I was keen to get the motor working again. In my case it certainly wasn't the grease which was causing the problem. It's so free to move that there's no friction or tension there at all. So I started to pull the motor apart, and this is what you just need to prise up the two lugs either side of the can where the magnet is, and you get access to the armature. I don't know if you can see, but down there are a couple of little carbon brushes, and the armature commutator, I think it's called, isn't it? So I think I'm going to take that apart and give it a clean. That will mean taking off the spur gear on the end, but hopefully that might be the answer, because I found there was just no torque on the motor at all. Well, that didn't work. I attempted to get the pinion off, which is on there very tight. I tried heating it, and I tried squeezing it and knocking it and pulling it. It wouldn't budge. So without any special tool to get the pinion off, I'm just going to resort to cleaning and trying to retension the little carbon brushes down there. By the way, while I'm in here, the contacts to this motor, this couple of little spade connectors, they are actually only a push fit onto the copper strips in the motor, which connect eventually to the sprung brushes. So I had soldered them sometime in the past because they just push in and they can easily get corroded and lose connection. But I know it wasn't the problem this time because I'd already had it apart and soldered it, and still the blasted thing would stall sometimes. Well, I cleaned the commutator up as much as I can with a bit of tissue paper and IPA, that's isopropyl alcohol, not Indian Pale Ale by the way, and try to scrape out the segments on the commutator with a fine screwdriver, but I'm not hopeful really that it's done a great deal of good. We'll have to put it back together and see if it's any better. Well, I've got it back together and it's working. Even if I apply just 6 volts to it, it spins with a lot of torque now. I can't stop it with my finger, which I could easily do before when it was in the car, but I'm not quite sure what voltage or current the thing is rated at, whether it's limited in the car so it doesn't burn anything out when it comes to the end of the travel. It probably is. I've got it hooked up back in the car now, and without the plunger gear assembly on it, you can actually then test it by locking and unlocking the car. Without having to wait for the delay, of course, which you get when you normally lock it. There's no movement when you lock the car now until you wait a couple of minutes. So, but you can test the motor by unlocking it. And the torque is amazing. Before, you could easily just hold the pinion with your finger and it wouldn't turn when you tried to lock or unlock it. But now there's a lot of power there, and you can't stop it with your finger. So that seems to have cured the problem. I'm surprised.